Yo, what is going on? It is legal tampering time in the NFL. I'm here back with the Senior Bowl squad of fantasy points of Brett Whitefield and Scott Barrett. What's going on, guys?
Let's go. It's time to legally tamper. No more illicit tampering. It's legal tamper time. I'm going to have a temper tantrum over all this illegal tampering. What's up, Brett?
What's up? You'll never convince me that they weren't illegally tampering also, right?
Guys, listen to how amazing Brett's microphone is. Brett just upgraded, spent unreal amounts of money on this microphone. He could drive this microphone. It costs more than my 2003 Honda Civic, but he sounds so amazing, so crystal clear. It's like I could watch like ASMR videos of Brett just all day talking into his amazing microphone.
Scott's too much.
You can tell there hasn't been any crazy fantasy-related free agent news yet because Scott is obsessing over Brett's microphone than the actual free agent news.
What are you talking about? The Raiders just got their quarterback of the future and the present. They got a superstar. Is EPA per play not the best quarterback efficiency metric? And does Jimmy Garoppolo not rank second by that stat over the past 2 seasons behind only Patrick Mahomes? And the second best stat is adjusted yards per attempt, where he leads all quarterbacks. So, and they got him at half the cost of Daniel Jones. So, I mean, is this not a blockbuster, brilliant signing by the Raiders?
If it's truly at half the cost of Daniel Jones, that's actually not too bad of a deal then.
I mean, I think Austin Gale, shout out to Austin Gale, who we used to work with back in the day, Brett. I think he had an amazing take. It was, okay, Josh McDaniels, Dave Ziegler are executing a let's keep our jobs masterclass, where you sign Jimmy G, it raises the floor massively, but doesn't raise any ceiling expectations. You go all in on an Aaron Rodgers or a rookie quarterback, then you're in like do or die territory. We need to see results. And with this, you're just going to, just barely make the playoffs every year. It's, I don't know. It's gross.
Yeah, how much of an upgrade is it an upgrade at all from Derek Carr last year?
I mean, I don't think so. Jimmy G has all those stats to back it up, and it's also like Brock Purdy's stats were even better. Right? It's hard to fail when you have Kyle Shanahan and the supporting cast that you do. I think those stats are sort of like a mirage stat. And I'm a Giants fan. I hated this Daniel Jones contract. At least with the Seahawks, that's basically a 1-year deal you can get out of very quickly. But from a GM perspective, you can go a few different routes. And I think the route I would prefer to go, rather than signing like a middling, the 22nd best starting quarterback in football to this $40 million per year contract, I would rather just build up the rest of my roster and just hope I can find, middling quarterback play cheap somehow, whether that's like a 3rd round rookie quarterback or that's, like Geno Smith came cheap last year. Or some Andy Dalton performed really well last year and was even cheaper, and just hoping for something like that while building up the roster around you. What do you think, Brett?
I mean, I wouldn't underestimate the benefit of Garoppolo already knowing the Earhart-Perkins system. I mean, I think that's huge. It's a lot more complicated than what Shanahan's doing. So we've seen Jimmy be successful with Shanahan, but I do think Carr struggled with that playbook and that system. So I think Garoppolo stepping in, already having known that, they're just gonna hit the ground running with install and getting that offense kind of back to where McDaniels wants it to be.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think Jimmy G knowing the offense is a big upgrade over Carr without much experience in the offense?
Yeah, you can't understate how important it is for the QB to have a grasp of what you're doing. John Costco says the Amelia Earhart system.
Why is that?
Why what?
Why is it the Amelia Earhart system?
Earhart Perkins, Amelia Earhart.
Oh, okay.
Just being a goofball.
I think Derek Carr is a more talented quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, for sure.
I also don't know that this is like a brilliant offensive mastermind we're talking about, not just someone who rode Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's coattails for 2 decades.
Yeah, I'm just saying it was pretty clear though that Carr wasn't running the offense the way McDaniels wanted it run. So
Is that right?
well, yeah, that's why he massively struggled. If you watch the tape, he was very poor at getting through progressions. I don't think he understood the progressions some of the time. So
the way the narrative is, it's like a confidence issue where McDaniel was really tough on him on tape, and then he just like imploded in the second half.
So what would kill your confidence?
Yeah, not understanding the offense, not fully,
So yeah, so I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's an upgrade by any means. I'm just saying I wouldn't undersell the value of Garoppolo knowing the system, because it is a complicated system. So
yeah, so is it an upgrade or not? Is it like, do you think the Raiders will be better off next year than they were this year? And then what about the fantasy options? What about Devontae Adams?
That's where I wanted to take this, because the weapons are massively different for Garoppolo compared to the Niners. I mean, they don't have anything close to a Deebo Samuel type of player. I mean, Devontae Adams is awesome, but like they just do totally different things. McCaffrey and whatever running back really was in that system does totally different things than what Josh Jacobs does. I mean, they've got Darren Waller and Devontae Adams now, who are just so different than Deebo, Ayuk, Kittle. And I mean, we just don't know. We just don't really know what Garoppolo will do with guys like that. Like, can you see Garoppolo hitting Devontae Adams on back shoulder throws like Aaron Rodgers used to? I just doesn't feel like it.
So that's the thing. Like, Jimmy's stats are amazing, like I said, but he also leads all quarterbacks every year in percentage of yards coming after the catch. Mm-hmm. Like, he can get you your PPRs, but like, do we trust Adams at this stage to be a yak guy? I don't think so. And like you said, so much of his production has been coming on passes 20 plus yards through the air, top 3 basically every season. And I don't trust Jimmy G as a prolific or efficient thrower of the deep ball.
The offense is going to get way more horizontal than vertical as far as the Raiders go. So if they use Adams similar to how McDaniels used Julian Edelman, I think that could be I think Adams is still going to put up really good numbers. We've seen.
But then what do you do with Renfro though?
Yeah, wait. We're converting Adams into a Julian.
They already have Julian Edelman.
That is like the most.
I mean, you can do it. You can,
like an elite player's skill set.
Honestly though, that is the Earhart-Perkins system. So that's what they do. They had Edelman and Amendola for years. Now, Amendola was never a high-level fantasy player.
They didn't have Randy Moss in the Wes Welker Amendola role.
Yeah, I don't think Adams is going to give you that elite separation that Moss was giving you downfield anymore. So I just don't see it happening.
You think he's lost a step?
No, I don't. Randy Moss is one of the fastest players to ever grace the fields of the NFL.
Right, and Adams is like one of the 3 wide receivers who've been almost as productive since he's retired.
Oh, I don't disagree. I'm not saying he's lost a step. I just don't think he is an elite downfield threat that you're talking about.
Yeah, but he's an elite outside wide receiver in the NFL. He's easily top 3, top 5, and it's like moving that to like a low ADOT possession slot wide receiver is you're not getting all the value of this elite player and like the money you're paying him.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all on that.
Why not just trade him for a first and draft Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is maybe an Edelman clone.
Well, he is. Yeah, I think JSN is an Edelman clone actually, but he still is. You still have the Hunter Renfrow issue though, which is what somebody mentioned about Adams playing in the slot more. Waller plays in the slot too some, so there's a lot of slot options there.
And Mac Hollins is currently a free agent. We'll see what ends up happening with him. So if you're talking about moving Adams in the slot, I mean, what do they do on the outside then?
Mac pretty much has no he has no identity in that offense really anymore, I don't think. Derek Brown is in the chat. He's asking why McDaniels didn't go to more 11 personnel to better suit Derek Carr. Well, it's because his wide receiver 3 was Mac Hollins. And that's the answer to that. I'd rather put Foster Moreau on the field than Mac Hollins. So
All right, so from since we have Brett on and he's our resident draft expert, do you think this move says that the Raiders felt they weren't going to be able to get a QB they liked at 7?
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, it definitely could suggest that, but the deal isn't long enough to really prevent them from taking a QB either. I think what it says is they're probably not trading up for one, but if one was there, I'm not going to say I know enough to claim they're not going to draft one. It's basically a 2-year deal, so
True. Yeah. So he could be a bridge, but definitely an expensive
bridge, for sure.
Yes. So we haven't had a ton of other. I don't think we've had a single skill player sign anywhere other than the Texans signing running back Mike Boone. I think that is the highest profile skill player we've had signed so far.
Well, that's pretty big deal there.
This move will be a boon to Dameon Pierce's fantasy. I think that's a good sign, Yeah. Because the only thing you worry about Dameon Pierce is like the lack of draft capital, but they have so many holes to their roster. I think they're definitely just going to keep riding with this guy as their starter. And, Boone was a nice, sort of redundant depth signing just in case Dameon Pierce gets hurt. Derek Brown is clowning me for my terrible pun. Chiefs get their tackle.
Yeah, we've got a couple O-line signings that will definitely have impacts for the offenses.
The O-line market's going crazy.
Yeah. So the Chiefs signed Jawan Taylor, former Jaguars offensive tackle, 4-year, $80 million deal, $60 million guaranteed. So, I mean, that's a big number. Does that mean Orlando Brown's beating that from wherever he lands?
I think the expectation was he was going to beat that. Yeah, I think he's going to be close to the 25 range, which is a lot of money.
Taylor's a solid tackle. I mean, I feel like that's a good move for them. They're pretty much just fixing their O-line after losing a pretty important piece, coming off a Super Bowl on top of it.
I think the bigger question is who the frick is going to play left tackle for them.
Because Andrew Wiley. So yeah, Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley have signed elsewhere so far today.
Wait, where did Brown sign?
Oh, sorry, I didn't say Brown did not sign, but he's going. We know he's probably not coming back now, given the Taylor signing.
I don't think they have enough money to sign him if they wanted to now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that left tackle spot's very interesting now. I'd be very curious to see what their plan is there. Maybe they're going to try to draft somebody. I don't really know.
Yeah, the top guys will be off the board by the time they get to them, obviously, in the draft. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do.
We haven't talked about the Javon Hargrave overpay.
It is. I think it is a little bit of an overpay.
It's kind of an overpay, but it was also predictable,
I mean, you know me. I don't really know anything about high level defensive tackle play, but just looking at the numbers, okay, he had his best year this year. He didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he had 11 sacks. The year before that, 7.5. But for the 5 seasons before that, not a lot of sack production, not a lot of even pressures. And so I wonder if this is just okay. You're on the stacked front 7 for the Eagles. You could just clean up and pad your numbers. What do you think about that, Brett?
I think Hargrave's an elite pass rusher.
Period. He's very good. Yeah.
He was good before he was in Philadelphia, and the tape is outstanding. Consistently wins from 3-tech, beats double teams all the time. The hilarious thing about this,
he's getting double teams?
Yeah. He gets double teamed a lot. Most good 3-techs do, yeah. Because
there's just so many great pass rushers on that Eagles team. I'm surprised he's the one they would double.
Yeah, but anytime you're facing a good 3 technique, you're going to prefer to double him because he's got the shortest pathway to the quarterback. So you're just not going to give him a free run to the quarterback. But
all right. So you think he's an elite defensive tackle?
Yeah, elite pass rusher.
Pass rusher.
When I was going to make, he's awful against the run. So the funny comical part about this is, if the Eagles and 49ers still play each other again in the playoffs next year, the Eagles are still going to run right through them like butter.
Yeah, he's not good against the run, which is ironic because I don't like the Niners almost don't need more pass rush. If anything, it was be able to stuff the run better.
Oh, wow. So it's 21 million.
Yeah, 21 million a year. Yep.
Do you think that sounds about right, or do you
I
think
would
that's
pay
a little?
21 million for like a year or two, because
It's a 4-year deal.
I think he's probably worth that for what you're going to get rushing the QB. The other issue is, Scott, is they have kind of a weird allotment of resources there now with Eric Armstead. So either Eric Armstead or Javon Hargrave is going to have to play out of position. Armstead is also at his best playing 3 technique on pass rush downs or obvious pass downs. So now you're going to have Armstead kicking out to edge mostly. I don't know. I mean, I don't like Armstead at 1 technique, and I hate Hargrave at 1 technique. Like, bleh. So.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it almost feels like a spite move a little bit. They're still reeling over that playoff loss, and they were like, we're just gonna make sure we take your guy, and hopefully he beats you next year when they meet in the playoffs.
Yeah. Chat, you guys can hit us with questions too as you're watching.
Yeah. So we had a couple cornerback signings. First one of the day was Jonathan Jones staying in New England. So they keep probably their best corner last year, right?
Yeah, he was their best corner by a lot.
So it'll be him and Jack Jones there on the outside again for 2023. This Lions signed Cam Sutton. I know you have a lot to say about this one, Brett.
Yeah, Cam Sutton. I mean, Chris, you and I recorded on the clock this morning, and I mentioned on that podcast that they should Cam Sutton was probably more of what they were looking at than like a Jamel Dean. And sure enough, they go ahead and sign Cam Sutton. He gives them the versatility they love in their defensive players, can play inside or out, that the ball skills are extremely attractive to this, regime with Aaron Glenn. He really loves ball skills, loves physicality too. Sutton gives you both. He's not the biggest corner in the world. He's only like 5'11", 195, but he plays very physical at times, and he's got ball skills for days. So I think he checks both of those boxes. I just dove into the film a little bit before we jumped on here. There's, even against really big wide receivers, Chris, like he does a good job of being physical and cutting routes off like routinely. Doesn't get flagged for it. Just really, really good at using his body and using his leverage to cut receivers off of their path. And I think it's a plus signing for the Lions, like big time. And they got him cheap too. You're getting a really consistent corner for like $11 million a year. That's dirt cheap.
I don't know if it's dirt cheap, but it's definitely not expensive. It's not near the top of the market.
I was expecting him to get like 14, 15. I think Brad Spielberger at Over the Cap /PFF was projecting the same, $15 million a year. So I think from that standpoint, it's cheap. But
we totally forgot to talk about the biggest trade of the day, Jonnu Smith being traded to the Falcons.
God,
how much is left on his contract, or did he already rework that?
What was that, like 2 or 3 years ago they signed?
I thought he was still going to be like one of the top, like, most expensive tight ends.
He was. I think he was supposed to have the biggest cap hit this year, but Rappaport's saying he wants to play with Arthur Smith again, so he's going to take a pay cut.
Right.
Yeah, his current contract only goes through 2024.
Yeah.
So what is this? I mean,
well, this means a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I want to ask Arthur Smith why he hates Kyle Pitts. What did Kyle Pitts do to you, man?
Yeah, I mean, because Jonnu is not like a run blocking tight end by any means, so it's not like
not at all.
Yeah, it's not like let's bring Jonnu in to be the run blocker so we can use Pitts as a receiver more. It's Johnny's got to be out there running routes, getting the ball in his hands for him to be effective. You can't. I can't imagine an offense with him and Pitts running routes.
Right. Yeah. Kyle Pitts is going to be the blocker, and Jonnu is going to be the featured asset in the passing game. This is Arthur Smith we're talking about. Whatever would piss fantasy players off the most is exactly what's going to happen.
Derek Brown says Jonnu and Pitt's skill set overlap. I would like to ask you, what skills does Jonnu have? He's good at
The same as Treylon Burks.
The same skill set as Treylon Burks. I see no overlapping skill set there, to be honest. I mean, the way you use them is overlapping, and that they're both going to be used in the pass game. However, Jonnu is he's 100% a yak player. He's not a route runner not a guy who's going to generate separation, has no clue in the world how to beat zone. It's I don't know. I really don't know what you do with both these guys. I mean, hopefully Arthur proves me wrong here, because this is insane.
If you could pick a dream team to trade for Kyle Pitts to relieve him of this nightmare, is there one that comes to mind?
Yes, Kansas City.
I mean, yeah.
What about the Lions?
Yeah, I just don't. They don't really scheme it up at the tight end too much.
TJ Hawkinson was on that team for how many years?
Traded him because they don't care.
Or was that just because Hawkinson's not that good?
Well, a little bit of both. But their production at tight end actually went up when they traded Hawkinson. So it just
he just wasn't that good.
Yeah. Especially their touchdown production went way up. But
yeah, somebody needs to get Kyle Pitts. I can't watch a whole nother season of him.
You know what I keep thinking about is the year the 49ers took Trey Lance is at the combine. They did like interview every single tight end. And I was just wondering, like, what would that, like, is Kyle Shanahan looking for a second tight end piece? Could that be valuable? But also, like, if he could go back in time and take Kyle Pitts instead of Trey Lance, I feel like you have to do that. Is that a possibility, Brett?
to do what now?
Imagine Kyle Pitts plus George Kittle, and then Brock Purdy just has the most stacked pass catching core of all time.
The 49ers don't have anything to give up for Kyle Pitts. Is the problem.
Trey Lance.
Oh, hey, that Arthur might be into that.
That actually isn't a bad idea.
Not the worst idea you've ever had. That's for sure.
I like how low the bar is for me. Really, that's not actually the worst idea I've ever heard.
Oh man, what about New England for Pitts? Because they literally have. Do they have a tight end on the roster currently?
Hunter Henry, right?
He's a free agent too. Is he not?
No.
So.
Did he do an extension?
No,
I mean, Johnny wasn't.
Johnny and Hunter got basically the same exact.
Yeah,
contract.
it was like almost identical.
No, Hunter's is way shorter.
Is
Am I crazy for thinking Hunter Henry's a free agent?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, why are we wasting airtime talking about Hunter Henry even? Something I wanted to bring up was how insanely stacked this running back free agency group is, this running back draft is. Apparently, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook are all being shopped. You have David Montgomery, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny, Leonard Fournette, Raheem Mostert, Devin Singletary, Alexander Madison, etc., all available via free agency. And then in the draft, there's, of course, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs. But PFF has 8 running backs in their top 100. And typically that's the cutoff for your starter quality running back versus you're not. Last year, they only had 3 running backs in their top 100.
Draft or free agency?
What's that?
Draft or free agency? Top 100 free agency?
Oh, yeah, for their draft. Their draft. And so 8 apparently starter quality running backs, and then five starter quality running backs in free agency. Then you have like studs like Eckler, Henry, Chubb, Cook reportedly being shopped. So I'm thinking, one, there's never been a worse time to be a running back and looking to get paid. But also from a fantasy perspective, there's not going to be a single fun or ideal landing spot for a Bijan Robinson or a Jahmyr Gibbs. And then a lot of these running backs are just going to see their value plummet because they're going to be forced to share a committee backfield. It's like, oh, awesome. Kareem Hunt goes, he could go here, but he ends up going to, like, I don't know, the Giants or just some disgusting landing spot. And I think that's like very possible.
I'm pulling up my draft board to see how many I have in my top 100. I don't know why you.
Like what is a good landing spot for any of these running backs, and then like right now, and then factor in these 12 free agents, factor in these 8 top 100 running backs. You're going to see a lot of committee backfields this year. And that's not great for fantasy.
I think that's, but if it's almost like it's all relative to each other, like if there's the more committee backfields there are, the less it matters, because it'll make the true elite bell cows truly elite, but like how many of them really is there?
I have
How many bell cows are there? Yeah, there's really not many. McCaffrey, Saquon, Eckler, Derrick Henry. I guess he doesn't get enough targets, but he's 20 plus touches every single game.
Bijan Robinson.
Bijan, he's going to be. That's the one thing with him is like there is no bad landing spot, because if you get Bijan, you're giving him 20 plus touches.
All right, we do have slightly breaking news. So Trey Wingo is reporting that Aaron Rodgers' deal to the Jets is done.
Ooh. Oh, we have another breaking news too.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. Josh Oliver has signed a 3-year
deal. I was like, wait,
the Vikings. That's a big deal for a guy who hasn't really played much.
It's a big deal for a team that just traded for TJ Hawkinson.
Oh my God. What are they doing, Chris? I love that.
Did they lose Irv Smith, right?
Yeah, he's signing somewhere, I heard.
Yeah, or going to.
I heard he's going to get way bigger money than people realize. What do we see compensation for Rodgers yet? I'm really curious on that.
It's not. No, I don't see any numbers with that yet. Just that a deal is done.
Real quick on the running back topic, Scott, I did just look at my top 100. Mm-hmm. I have 9 running backs in my top 100.
Wow.
So, but I'm also not through everybody yet. So, there's a chance I have less.
More?
No, there's a chance I have less than that, because I've done 26 running backs or something. So, okay. James Bradbury signing with San Francisco. We seeing this?
What is this? Are they just trying to build the Eagles on the West Coast? Where did you see that?
Somebody put it in chat. Pete Gorman. I don't know if that's something he's seen or just a prediction, but Pete, let us know. Clarify that for us. Dustin Whitehead says, "What the F are the Vikings doing?" I ask myself that every day when I wake up in the morning, because imagine trading the draft capital you did for Hawkinson, then being like, "Oh, knowing you're going to have to pay Hawkinson too, by the way," and then coughing up $7 million a year for your presumed
Josh Oliver. Yeah,
Josh Oliver. So,
well, they did cut Adam Thielen, so maybe and the receiver market is very much not looking great, and even the draft is not as strong as we've seen in past years. Maybe they're just saying we're going to have to run a lot of 12 personnel.
Derek Brown says Hawk now a big slot. He doesn't have the movement skills to play small tight end. I don't know how he's going to play big slot.
Although any target that doesn't go to Justin Jefferson is a loss. So if this means somehow they throw the ball him more, then that's good.
Yeah, that's a weird signing. I'm not going to lie. Especially with the depth of this tight end class. You tell me you couldn't find a tight end 2 in day 3? Like, go get Davis Allen.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Or Dustin Whitehead suggested, why didn't they just sign Conklin? Exactly. And Conklin's a better player than Josh Oliver.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what kind of offense they want to run that they think is most effective. I didn't like the Hawkinson trade when it happened last year, and this further makes it not look great.
Yeah. All right, what do we think of Rodgers in New York, or should we save that for when it happens officially?
We could talk about it now, because hopefully we have some other, more fantasy relevant guys signing here at some point too. Obviously,
Trevor made a start for the Jets last year. I remember him playing. I didn't know that he started that game in Jacksonville. Chris Reveler. Sorry.
Did he start a game?
That's what PFR says. Yeah, he started that game.
Holy crap!
And then I guess Zach Wilson finished it. Let me see. Let me check the play-by-play. No, PFR had it wrong. Wow.
I was going to say, I do not remember him starting a game last year.
Yeah.
Well, I love what Rodgers brings to the Jets. I mean, he's familiar with that offense. Garrett Wilson should explode as a fantasy guy.
And Elijah?
I mean, you would think. I don't know what they're going to do with him, though.
Do you remember what you told me when we were watching tape on Elijah? And you said one of my biggest concerns is his small frame and small catch radius. And I said, okay, but here's my landing spot for him is Green Bay desperately needs a wide receiver. Yeah. You're picking a late round one. You're like, oh, dude, if he had Aaron Rodgers, he'd be a Hall of Famer. And, man, I cannot get over that, although last year was so bad.
Yeah, you have to wonder how much of the Elijah, I guess, lack of production last year was on him or on the Jets,
On the offensive coordinator.
When they drafted Garrett Wilson, my biggest issue was that those two dudes overlap way too much, Wilson and Elijah Moore. And I didn't see how they're
so?
I mean, they're literally the same player, but skill set wise.
I mean, that's a huge compliment to Elijah. Or you just mean stylistically?
Stylistically, yeah. I don't do ceiling floor counts, but stylistically, the things they offer you are the same. They're both slot mostly players. They're quick twitch, good downfield speed, but they're very small, minimalist frames. They're not going to extend a lot beyond their body. They don't have the best ball skills in the world. So, I don't know.
Ian Rappaport now saying that he has heard nothing on the Rodgers front. So conflicting reports in the NFL media.
You know what's interesting to me is like how massively Rappaport has improved his standing while Schefter has gone in the opposite direction. Where Schefter is just like constantly getting clowned on this year when for, 5 straight years, it was just every time Rappaport tweeted something out that Schefter disagreed with, he was wrong. And this year, I don't know. Schefter's getting clowned a lot. Rappaport's like getting all the glory. And he's had some great scoops. There was that, remember it used to be a competition for free agency, like who could get the most scoops? And like maybe 5 years ago, and Schefter got 99.9% of them.
Yeah.
I missed that. I wish we went back to that.
Correction here. Wilson started that game, Scott, and Strevler relieved him.
Yeah, as I said, PFR has it wrong. They have it as a Strevler start. I hate that. That's going to bother me so much. I'm going to be worried. I'm going to tweet out a stat, and it's wrong because of that.
You could just look at fantasy points data. I'm just saying.
That's true. That's a good point.
What do you guys think of Connor McGovern signing with the Bills? Another guard. They've kind of been moving guards in and out of that offensive line for what feels like forever now. And also on the Cowboys side of things, their offensive line was kind of a mess last year after some injuries.
Well, on the Bills side, I mean, they've been playing musical chairs on their O-line for a couple of years, and it finally started to catch up to them this year. That's why I've been mocking them O-linemen in just about every draft. So he gives them some stability, at least one spot there. Cowboys, I'm not sure what they're going to do, man. Is Tony Pollard going to suit up and play?
I think Zeke would fit better there, wouldn't he?
It was obviously.
Where's a good place for Zeke to fit outside of the pasture, the farm where old running backs go to die?
Long snapper?
A golden corral. I don't know.
A golden corral.
He's getting kind of fat. I don't know. Maybe a little bit.
He was getting fat, and I felt like last year he really leaned up again.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's even worse because he played fat.
Oh, he for sure. There was a year or two there where, like, you know how he likes that short cut off jersey or whatever?
That's right. He stopped doing that.
Old coming out. Looked like he was, I don't know, 6 months postpartum there.
Don't fat shame, bro. Eddie Lacy. Poor Eddie Lacy.
What about Eddie Lacy on this free agency? What's going on there?
He's like the token fat running back.
Oh,
you don't remember? And like it's so funny. Like his Twitter was just like him talking about how much he wanted to eat Chinese food. Like he'd be tweeting at practices like, "Can't wait to get Chinese food tonight."
Hey, another free agency thing worth noting here. The linebacker market that exploded like 2 years ago seems to have dried up quite a bit. You saw TJ Edwards go to the Bears for like no money. And then Jermaine Pratt re-signed with the Bengals for not much more than Edwards got. Those are both two pretty good players, and they're not resetting the market at all. If anything, they've gotten less than what the linebacker market has been getting recently. That's very interesting to me. $7 million a year for those two guys, basically.
The NFL catching on that linebackers don't matter that much unless they're the absolute elite ones.
You know what's weird is they knew that for a while. Then all of a sudden you had that offseason where like, Mosley got what, $20 million a year, and you're just like, what is going on? There's a couple other guys that offseason as well. Multiple guys getting drafted top 10 that shouldn't have. I'm really curious to see what a guy like Tremaine Edmonds gets now on the open market, because he's considered better than both those guys, but the gap is a lot closer than you would think. And we just saw what Matt Milano got in Buffalo. I don't know what.
Yeah, Quincy Williams got a relatively small deal, 3 years, $18 million to re-sign with the Jets.
Right.
Yeah, you're definitely onto something there.
Yeah, so like a couple of years ago, we were seeing linebackers get $15 to $20 million a year, and it was pretty wild. And now it's like that market is cut in half almost. But
the Broncos have they've redone two of their line spots now. They signed Ben Powers, the guard from the Ravens, and they signed Mike McGlinchey from the Niners. Do you think that helps Russ at all this year? They're also apparently possibly shopping all of their receivers, so I don't know how that helps Russ, but whatever.
Wait, but who was the other one? You said Ben Powers and who?
And McGlinchey. Didn't McGlinchey sign there?
Did he sign with the – I missed that if he did.
I'm pretty sure he did.
That's huge. That's huge for whoever their quarterback is.
What are you saying? The Jared Stidham signing?
I'm saying there's a competition in Denver, guys. Costco says, yeah, massive 5-year deal. Interested to see how much that was.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 5-year,
more or less than Taylor.
$87.5 million, over $50 million guaranteed.
Less years. Garrett Wilson has reportedly tweeted, "Y'all should see the smile on me right now with a cry face." So
who is this?
Garrett Wilson.
Oh wow, they hate Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
so
he's
much.
been very outspoken, so that's probably the best source that we've had. He's probably being true. Yeah, he's not lying.
Been told something, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Unless he's just reading Trey Wingo's tweet.
Oh, maybe.
Oh God. Then he'll be extra outspoken if it doesn't happen.
Imagine being Lamar Jackson right now must not be fun, because he literally can't even talk to teams right now about and I don't like, how is a team supposed to? They can't wait for him. They got to figure out what they're doing now in free agency. Then they got to figure out how to fit a giant QB contract into their plan that they may not even be able to get.
Well, it's like we were talking before the show, Chris, with our producer Sean. The Jets have seemingly put all their eggs in this basket.
Yeah, they basically can't do anything until they get it figured out.
And it's a massive cap number, so it literally is putting their whole operation on hold at the moment. Rodgers has to be the most self-centered football player of all time.
Why is that?
Why do I think that, or why?
Yeah, because he's unvaccinated.
What do you think?
No.
I mean, I get it. I think you're right. He's just trying to get paid. Teams don't. Teams are selfish too. I think the GMs are selfish, and the owners are selfish. So, it's the same thing with Lamar Jackson right now. Try and get your money. Go ahead.
He's also self-centered, but
because he's unvaccinated.
Wait, is that even true? Are you spreading false medical information right now, Scott?
I don't want to violate HIPAA, so I'm not going to get too into it.
Yeah. So as far as Rodgers goes, no, it's. I understand he's trying to do what's best for him, but you still do have a moral obligation to your teammates. not necessarily the organization. They're going to play their shrewd game and be just as shrewd as you are. But man, those are your teammates. Those are your dogs. You gotta set them up for success the best that you can. So business is business, but man, take care of the men you've been leading day in and day out. That's kind of my take on it. And him just being in limbo all the time. He's been in limbo for what, 3 years? Like, brother, just make a decision and move on. So I kind of hope he either just retires or goes to the Jets and retires, because I can't do this every year with him. It's too much.
Well, that's what's tough with Lamar. Like he can't make deal. Like, I don't see a world where this works out for him now, because
No.
teams can't talk to him. They're not going to wait to plan for him. Like, there's no. I don't see a scenario where he gets the kind of deal that he wants. And we haven't seen, the Falcons have been making moves, so they're clearly not trying to make sure they have enough cap room for him. Trying to think of the other teams that were kind of in the mix. The Lions have made moves, even though they were rumored around him as well.
The Lions?
Yeah, weren't they the favorite at one point?
Nobody understood why.
Yeah.
Maybe because I don't really know why they were the betting favorite. Hey, Scott, you have any insight on that?
On what?
Why the Lions were the betting favorite for Lamar Jackson?
I think it's just like logically, Jared Goff is a bottom 10 quarterback unless he's playing at home. Then he's middle of the pack, and you just add Lamar Jackson to this offense. This is like an easy top 3 offense in the NFL. But you're the one who's plugged into the Lions, and I know you were saying that didn't make any sense to you, so I never took it seriously. But I think that's the reasoning. Do you disagree?
No, I think that's fine. Plus, they have the extra draft capital. Maybe that's why. Easier for them to swallow the 2 first-round picks or whatever when they have extra first-round picks. So,
well, where are you at on the Lamar Jackson thing? Do you think he's worth 2 first-round picks and then a Deshaun Watson like contract? Because everyone's perplexed that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I don't get why everyone's perplexed. No, I don't think Lamar's worth that.
Why not?
Well, he's shown you his clear deficiencies over the last 4 years, and while he definitely 4
years?
Yeah, has it been 5?
Yeah, no, it's been 4 years, but I mean, like, he won MVP in that first year. The second year was great, and then the last 2 years, you could either say definitely hasn't been great or he's been hurt.
I think it's been both. He's been hurt.
Yeah,
it hasn't been great. But by the way, which of both are contributors to him not getting that fully guaranteed contract? The injury stuff is real with him. That's his whole play style.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's weird, like the narrative on Twitter versus what might be the narrative among, within the NFL. But you're right. Yeah, injuries, lack of success in the playoffs, and then it's also like, I mean, look at the Deshaun Watson, look at the Browns, look at the Broncos after, trading all these key assets and then picking up, spending, like their cap is trash for the next 7 years. They were hoping to win the Super Bowl last year. Like, that was their move.
It's hard to get better when you make moves like that. And then the fully guaranteed stuff too, Scott, like it's been played out on Twitter now that once people finally figured out the rules and how escrow works, like people finally understand it's not super common for an NFL owner just to have $250 million cash laying around to put in escrow. But
I mean, I don't think that's as so. Like Mina Keems and Daniel Jeremiah were like tweeting about like it's ridiculous the Colts haven't given up their 4th overall pick plus next year's 1 for the rights to make Lamar Jackson the highest paid player in the NFL, and like that is just crazy to me. Like the Colts do not have a good roster in my opinion. And so, like, they're not just a quarterback away from making a deep run into the playoffs. And then you're giving up a top 5 pick and then another round 1 pick, and you're spending all this money on a oft-injured, hypermobile quarterback. Hypermobile quarterbacks tend to age less gracefully. But Lamar is, like, crazy young. What is he, like 27, 26? 27?
He was the
26 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's tough because like we have this discussion a lot of with Mahomes and how much his cap hit means to that team. Because it's what 18.5% of the team's salary, and it's only going up from there.
I mean, with inflation, with how much Daniel Jones is getting paid, no, that's an amazing deal. He's gonna try and renegotiate it.
Mahomes one is the Mahomes one, sure, but you're gonna get Lamar Jackson to the same territory though.
Oh right, yeah. No.
And Mahomes is the only person that's really ever made this work with this kind of cap hit. So. Yeah, I don't like the idea of doing that with Lamar. Lamar's game is so limiting. He instantly raises the floor of your team. I'm not going to deny that. But beyond that, he's not going to run a passing offense that gets you to where you need to go.
How much better is it to have Lamar Jackson than Daniel Jones as your quarterback?
I would say
Lamar is clearly a better runner.
Yep.
What about as a passer? How did he stack up as passers?
I mean, Lamar probably has the same caliber arm as far as arm talent goes. Accuracy, Daniel Jones is going to be a little bit more accurate throw for throw than Lamar. But you know what though? To be fair to both guys, we haven't seen them with a legit number one wide receiver type of player.
I mean, we haven't seen Daniel Jones with any receivers ever in his entire career. But I mean, Lamar had Hollywood. Lamar has Mark Andrews. I mean, we know the value of an elite pass catching tight end. Look at Patrick Mahomes this past year with not much else beyond Travis Kelce.
You compare anyone to Patrick Mahomes, though. We have to stop doing that.
No. I'm not comparing any. I'm comparing Mark Andrews to Travis Kelce.
I'm saying Mahomes' ability to extrapolate value out of the tight end is going to be more extreme than what Lamar can do with Mark Andrews. Or any
Tom Brady plus Rob Gronkowski.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's just massive. We're overrating the importance of a top pass catching tight end.
Do you think Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends of all time?
No, I think he's like the third or fourth best tight end in football right now.
Brady and Gronk were the two best players at their position all time.
Right. And Travis Kelce is
probably
maybe
number
the
two.
second or third best.
Yeah, Mahomes probably number two.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's Mark Andrews, and then there's also Hollywood Brown, who is paid like a top 12 wide receiver. And then there's also Rashad Bateman for short periods of time, who's a round one pick.
Well, and ironically, the more weapons Lamar has in the field, the better he looks passing the ball. That's not a secret.
Yeah, but that's every quarterback.
Exactly.
Daniel Jones has had nothing.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying I want to see Lamar and Daniel Jones with a true number one receiver. Like Andrews isn't that. He's not a guy you can throw the ball to on play.
Yeah, I think he is. And I think Hollywood is too.
But Andrews isn't though. He's not gonna like a true number one receiver wins any matchup. It doesn't matter what coverage.
Mark Andrews owns the third best, fifth best, and seventh best yards per route run seasons by any tight end in PFF's history, with only Kittle and Gronk showing up in the top 12.
That's an efficiency. Yeah. What does that have to do with Lamar Jackson?
I'm saying you're saying Lamar has never had enough weapons. I'm saying Mark Andrews is an elite tight end.
He is an elite
Brown is a wide receiver one. I don't think you can make that argument, especially not when we're talking Daniel Jones.
What is Lamar's deficiency as a quarterback?
Accuracy.
What does Mark Andrews force you to be?
He helps an inaccurate quarterback with his big frame.
No,
but he doesn't separate though.
You're forcing Lamar to do the thing he's not very good at, which is fit the ball into tight windows. So
why does he throw the ball to him every other play?
Because to your point, that's all they've had.
Well, he also had Hollywood Brown for a number of years.
Hollywood Brown is not that good, though. We have to come to terms with that at some point.
He's great. He's if he's not up against press coverage, he is a top 12 wide receiver. Top 10 wide receiver.
You did not just
top 10?
If he's not against press coverage. Maybe not top 10. I don't know.
maybe
He's
not.
just good. I think he's better than Brett says, but Brett knows more about wide receiver play than I do. I just like the back and forth.
I
always want something.
I could probably spout 20 receivers off better than him.
Yeah, that's probably right.
But,
well, the problem,
he was on the verge of a breakout until he got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this fit with
Hill,
Kyler.
Brown, Diggs, Lamb, Adams, Waddle, Smith, Chase, Evans, Metcalf, Kirk, Higgins, Cooper, Ayuk, McLaurin, St. Brown, Godwin, Wilson, Lockett, Olave. Let's just name a few. I think I got the 20.
But I mean, you're both making arguments that both these QBs need top, an alpha wide receiver. But like, is there enough of them to even go around in the NFL, especially with multiple teams realizing that it's better to have like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown? Like, what? Well, that can't. The solution can't always be get a guy a true number one.
Well, this is why I loved when they had Hollywood Brown, they had Mark Andrews, then they went and drafted Rashad Bateman in the first round. That made perfect sense. I would like to see someone try that again. They gave Lamar a year for that to work. Bateman was never on the field. Boom.
Yeah.
And then to Scott's point, Daniel Jones has literally been thrown to my 7-year-old and Scott for his entire career.
I mean, your 7-year-old might get more separation than Kenny Galladay at this stage of his career.
It's freaking fast, so I'll say that.
What do you think of the rumors that the Cardinals want to trade DeAndre Hopkins? Is that like very counterintuitive in terms of Kyler?
I think that's smart. They're in rebuild mode as these should be. DeAndre Hopkins is like 31 years old, coming off of a great season a year after he declined by 60% yards per game while being on steroids. Yeah, let's move this guy.
That's a great point.
Sell all the assets you have for spare parts. Trade down from your pick. Kyler is what, not it? Are they just giving up on Kyler? He can't stay healthy. He declines every year in the second half. Another short quarterback who
Kyler needs a legit coach.
Well, that's true.
I mean, so everyone was blaming Cliff, and Cliff wasn't great, but
Kyler never really cleaned up his biggest issues coming out of college. Just part of the problem.
You listen to Greg Gassell talk about Kyler, and like, you think Kyler is like a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, he's got a ton of talent, but yeah, getting that out of him is going to be the question. I do think Cliff's system was pretty bad, though.
I mean, it's another limited quarterback. Like I think what Kyler does with his legs is more impressive than what Lamar does with his legs. Like Kyler freaking teleports. He's such a jitterbug and so elusive, so hard to get on the ground. But yeah, he's another short quarterback. Maybe vision isn't great. Highly volatile inconsistent in terms of performance. And then, just the size means you're probably more injury prone and lots of injuries and a big decline in the second half. You take away those legs and it's not good.
The counter take, or I would say the
counter take. I like that.
It's not even a counter take, but the point I want to make is Kyler, what everyone thinks is his biggest asset is his legs, and it actually gets him in the most trouble. Because what happens is he has an enormously slow trigger. Like this guy will not throw the ball unless he sees it wide open. So what happens is he uses his legs to buy him time. You mentioned the size and how he's now he's at risk to be injured a lot. He takes a million unnecessary hits. He gets himself sacked all the time when he shouldn't be sacked. And he's not that good out of structure. And we see this a lot. Like everyone sees what Mahomes does out of structure and they're like, oh, we got to recreate that. So let's get the next guy that does that. Well, you don't necessarily want that. Most quarterbacks in the NFL kind of struggle when they get out of structure. And Kyler is no different. He struggles really bad when he gets out of structure. Some of that is he can't see across the middle of the field. I mean, that is a running joke, but I do think it's sort of true. So that slows down his trigger quite a bit. And he will not throw the ball unless it's wide open. Same thing he did at Oklahoma, but it works in college because athletes are inferior in college. So he can run around all day. They could play with his legs. Eventually, CeeDee Lamb's going to come running wide open across the middle of the field. It's easy peasy. So he hasn't improved that at all, though, at the NFL level, and it's cost him time because he's been hurt a lot. It's cost him, a lot of sloppy play on the field.
He still can do things though that just most of the QBs in the NFL can't do.
Like I said, talent-wise, he's great, but
yeah,
he's got to put it all together between the years.
So we did just have a signing, not a very big one though. Von Bell is going to the Panthers, safety.
Okay, he's a solid safety.
They've still got money to play with in Carolina, despite some of I guess they've traded away anyone that would have had a bigger contract. Is DJ Moore even hitting their cap this year, or did that all go to the Bears?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
I'm just firing off some dang tweets right now. Don't worry about it.
OBJ, I guess, is wanting $20 million a year, so he can
so
go
funny.
for a little bit longer than.
Oh boy!
So my whole thing is every time OBJ is like in the news, which is like constantly, like his PR guy is so good. It's just like, you remember last year, like week 5 OBJ update. Where is he going to sign? Week 10 OBJ update. Where is Will Fuller at? That's what I want to know. Lance Zierlein says Jalen Hyatt is a Will Fuller clone. He's the wide receiver 1 in this class. So some team's going to spend this early round 1 pick. Why not sign Will Fuller for cheap? Where is Will Fuller at? Because OBJ, 30, 31 years old, hasn't played in a year, has 2 ACLs in his last 3 seasons, hasn't averaged more than 40 yards per game since 2019. The dude is cooked, and he wants 20 mil per year. There's all these teams, watching him practice. Where's Will Fuller at? That's what I want to know. I
guess that thumb never healed.
I mean, he also left because of other issues, right? Didn't he?
The world's worst thumb injury. He kind of just, it was weird. 2021, Calvin Ridley and Will Fuller both just kind of like dipped out, and they're like, yeah, I'm just like done with football.
Yeah, so it's pretty clear Fuller was just done with football.
Yeah. But I mean, millions of dollars, like.
Oh, he'd get a serious payday from a handful of teams.
By the way, I don't know how I missed this comment from Costco in the chat.
Yeah.
When we were talking about Hollywood Brown, he says, yeah, give him a free release, no contact, and a bad CB, and he's great. Yeah. True. Again, my 7-year-old, my 7-year-old could win by those standards. So
this is why I love you and Costco, Brad, because like I will just throw out ridiculous statements just to learn stuff. And you guys will always slap it back in the funniest way possible.
We do film sessions for those listening. Scott and I will do film sessions where we watch film together, and I spend 80% of the time not actually watching film, but answering Scott's hilarious questions about certain things. Like, to be fair to you, Scott, you think about things very inquisitively. Like my favorite questions you always ask me are, well, if this player is so good, how come this player did this in the same system last year? That just cracks me. I love that, but it actually makes me think a little bit, And it is stuff worth thinking about. Like when you're evaluating a player, you do have to think about that stuff. Sometimes it's as simple as a new year does change things, but sometimes there's actually a good or not a good reason for it, and you're probably right on your prior.
So who did we watch the other night?
We watched
Hyatt.
Jalen Hyatt. We watched.
He's a lot better than I was hoping he was going to be. I was hoping. My model loves him.
I was just gonna say you have him as your best receiver in both your models, and he's.
Well, that's without adjustments. You need to adjust for JSN, missing all of last year. But yeah.
Gotcha. But it's just funny that you said he's better than I hoped he would be. But you don't
I
want
know.
one in your model to be the best guy on the field.
Well, it's age-adjusted production, and he really, really has that. He was awesome last year. So we watched him. We watched Dalton Kincaid, who is so much fun. My goodness.
And Kendre Miller.
Who my model is insanely high on. It's like dangerous, scary high on.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a surprising
Brett said he saw a little bit of Joe Mixon in his game. I like that.
Yeah, Kendre Kendra has some skills for sure. He's one of the main dudes of this crowded running back class for sure.
He's my RB3. I go 1, Roshan Johnson, 2, Bijan Robinson, 3, Kendra Miller.
How are you extrapolating the Roshan?
Please no.
I mean, like I just want to put that take out there. Like I would love first take to debate. Like how is that even a possible take to debate?
If you're like purely a data guy, you can make the argument.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Roshan Johnson, best running back since 2014 in career missed tackles forced per touch, best in yards after contact per attempt, and those are like 2 of the most predictive metrics. So
on good volume too. It's not like he had like 10 carries. Like he had 400 career carries or something like that. So I mean,
the problem is Bijan just had so much more, and volume is efficiency. Yeah. So it's like this coach isn't an idiot.
Yeah, right. So off of that side tangent, we got a question here from Robo35. He says, "Mountain Boy," I think he meant my boy, Brett. Are there Lions in on Tremaine Edmonds? That'd be the Buffalo linebacker. I would say probably not. I don't think they're looking to be big-time players in free agency. I think Sutton is probably the biggest splash they'll make, and maybe sign another starter or 2 on the low key. I do not think they're going. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds wants to be the highest-paid linebacker in the NFL. I don't see that happening, but I also think it means he's not settling for one of these $7-8 million a year contracts. I don't see the Lions getting involved in that.
The receivers and running backs must not be getting any kind of market that they thought they would.
I mean, like, what wide receiver would you be excited for your team to sign?
Chark from Myers is probably it for me.
DJ Chark would be probably the favorite.
Chark and who?
Myers, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. Okay, wait for those guys to sign Christian Kirk money, because there's.
I heard
they must not be getting it right.
Christian Kirk money. Well, Chris, I think what you could be seeing is a lot of posturing. You don't want to be the first guy to sign, because like if you're DJ Chark and you think you're better than Jacoby Myers, you want him to sign first, so then you can tell your agent, I want more than that. That happens a lot. That could be what's holding up the market. They're waiting for that first domino to fall. It might take one of like the 4th or 5th best guy signing to then really establish what the market is, and then everyone can build from there.
Well, there's definitely something that, like, because I think last year we had Tyreek Hill traded on this day. I don't know if Devontae Adams was the same day, but it was shortly after. So teams definitely aren't clamoring to acquire available receivers right now. And I mean, running backs tend to not move fast ever, so that makes sense. But
yeah, the fact that there's zero movement on both fronts though is super weird.
Yeah, I mean, even the tight end market, we had Josh Oliver signed. That was it. I mean, Dalton Schultz is out there, Hayden Hurst, Robert Tonyan, all guys that have had success at different levels.
Now that the Josh Oliver domino has fallen, we should start falling in line, Ethan Pocic just is expected to re-sign with the Cleveland Browns center. So they're keeping their continuity there on the O-line. Costco, if you're throwing the chat, how you feel about the Ethan Pocic re-signing?
I was really into Josh Oliver once upon a time. But then he had he missed 2 full seasons due to injuries that you don't really come back from.
And then the Jags traded him to the Ravens for like a 5th or something, and he's been a decent backup for them. But
I guess. I mean, backup. Isaiah Likely just snatched that job real quick.
Yeah, and they have another good tight end coming back this year who was drafted ahead of Likely. Why can't I think of his name? Charlie. Our dude, Chris.
Iowa State. Kohler. Charlie Kohler.
Yeah.
He was drafted in the last year, missed all of the season with an injury.
I think he was back for the last game or two, but it didn't.
That was Wes Huber's tight end too.
I thought Kohler was.
He was my tight end 2 or 3. I know that.
Well, my model said Isaiah Likely was like a generational prospect, and then those pro day numbers or combine numbers came in, and I was just like, oh god.
Fun fact about Isaiah Likely, he had like 80% of his receiving yards on 3 plays his last year of college. I'm not kidding. Yeah, he
Oh.
had 2 80-yard receptions and a 90-yard reception, 99-yard reception.
Yeah, but he also just had insane numbers like the year before that, and then I think even if you factor that in, it was just like a generationally ridiculous year. Yeah,
If you
I
can,
mean, 900 yards in 13 games. It's crazy for a tight end.
I'm telling you, a ton of that came on like a handful of plays, like a ridiculous amount. Dustin Whitehead says, if you can pay a third string tight end $7 million a year, you should easily do it. I don't think I'm a fan of the Vikings.
What do you think the Bengals should be doing with their? So they're a good team, one of the rare good teams that have a lot of money. So they lost Von Bell. Jesse Bates is also a free agent, correct? Right, because he played on the franchise tag last year.
Yep.
And Eli Apple is also a free agent. So basically, most of their secondary is available as free agents, and they have a lot of money, but don't seem willing to spend it. I mean, they've got to do something on defense here, don't they?
I mean, you would assume they're in a good cap spot too, aren't they?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. They're one of the better. They're one of the rare good teams that actually has cap space.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I mean, how? Because
of the Texans 1 year, $4 million. That's a non-needle mover there.
I didn't even know Ridgeway was still in the league. Texans have been pretty active.
Yeah, no, they've been active, but in stupid ways. Like they did this. Was it? I mean, the last few years they make all these little ticky-tack signings, and I thought they were doing this because it's a lame duck situation. So they're just like, cool, whatever. We got to get through life without Deshaun for a year. Then we'll start actually building a roster, and they're still doing the same stupid things.
Yeah,
I don't really know what their plan is long term, but just gonna keep turning it over. $18 million on a 3-year deal for Pochich. That's pretty cost effective. Oh, and base value. I have no idea what the signing bonus is then.
Did Robert Woods sign with the Texans? That's what
he was. Yeah, he did a couple days ago.
Oh, because I totally forgot he did that.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that. That actually was a skill player involved.
Yeah, I totally forgot it happened.
He got decent money too, right? Like $10 million.
That's what I was just pulling it up. 2-year, 15.25 million. 10 million fully guaranteed. So yeah, I mean it's not a bad deal.
Wait, the Texans are where Boone signed as well?
Yeah.
So they are literally just nickel and dime in this roster.
Yep.
What are they doing? Scott, what do you think of Robert Woods?
I mean, he might still have some juice left. I mean, it's hard for anyone to be productive in the offense he was in last year. But then again, he didn't look great either. What was it, an ACL he was coming back from, and he tried to come back a little too soon?
Yep.
So of receivers that had 75 targets last year, Woods had a 71% catchable ball rate, which was 9th worst in the league.
And you're saying that's on the quarterback?
Yeah, because you were saying, yeah.
It's on both.
Yeah.
He's not getting separation. He's just not going to get a lot of catchable balls because, Tannehill's not going to purposely put it in harm's way.
He only had 1 forced missed tackle all season.
Yeah.
That's on him. That's pretty bad.
How old is he?
He is 31.
Yeah. I don't know. He's someone I draft a lot of in best ball, I think. But, like in a start-sit league, I don't think he's really doing anything for you.
Oh, yeah. You're never – I mean, any of the – maybe Brandon Cooks, but the rest of the Texans receivers, you're never going to feel good about having to make a choice on whether to put them in your lineup or not.
Oh, I'd want John Mechie on 100% of my best ball teams.
Really? Brett, what did because we never got to see him. How did you Mechie rank for you last year in the receiver group?
He was good. I can, if you give me a second here, I can pull up his actual score for me.
He was another guy who had a bunch of injuries. So my model really liked him, and then if you factor in injuries, like could have been one of my favorite wide receivers in the class.
Yeah, I liked him coming out too, but was unfortunate that he didn't end up getting to play. Not that who knows if it would have mattered last year.
Mechie was he was my wide receiver 9 in my pre-draft model. But like I said, that's not my pre-draft rankings. Like if you factor in, he played through a bunch of injuries and looked awesome. He was probably like wide receiver 7 for me.
Is he definitely coming back this year though?
Nah, I guess not. We don't know. Oh, according to Derek Brown, it's typically a 2-year treatment. Yeah, so it's not a given he comes back this year. I guess that's true. John Lester had the same thing, right? When did he come back?
Mechie scored as a mid to late day 2 pick for me, so I liked him. I liked him a good bit. But early 3rd round pick is kind of where I scored him. So
that's pretty much where he went, right? If I remember.
Yeah, I think that is about where he went actually. Yeah, pick two round or pick 44 overall, round 2, pick 44. That's almost right on where I have him actually. It's a little earlier, but I didn't realize he was drafted in the CFL draft as well. He went in the 7th round of the CFL draft, of the NFL draft.
Funny.
That is hilarious, actually.
Yeah, what if Aaron Rodgers never had any interest in going to the Jets? He's just fucking with them, so they're gonna have to start Jacoby Brissett this year.
Oh no,
that would be awesome. And him and Belichick would just high five about it. Belichick was head coach for a day. It's like, yeah, fuck the Jets. Oh, I hate the Jets. That was hilarious.
Oh, I can't wish that upon Jets fans. What are some so since nobody wants to seem to sign today, what are some landing spots you'd like to see?
I said it on TikTok last week, Chris. I want Chark on the Giants.
They could just re-sign Darius Slayton.
Chark is way better than Slayton.
He is, but he's going to cost more.
Wait, the Giants re-signed Slayton?
No. I'm saying they could.
No, they hate him. There's 2 different regimes.
They definitely do hate him, yeah.
Buried him on the depth chart, and every time 8 wide receivers had to get hurt, and then he's by far their most productive, or one of their most productive ones.
Would you rather pay
offended John Costco? He said language. My kids were watching.
What if my kids were watching? They'd be traumatized.
Sorry, Chris.
Would you rather pay top of the market money for Shark or get Slayton at half the cost?
Oh, for sure, Slayton. They're kind of the same player in my eyes.
Sure, Chark.
I think I'd rather have
Daniel Jones was Slayton for 4 freaking years. Why do we want to watch that again? We know what
DJ Chark's about to get Christian Kirk money.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
That's ridiculous. If he gets Christian Kirk money, then I would just punt and say neither.
There's no big X wide receivers in the draft, in free agency. Some team's going to pay Shark.
There are some. They're just scarce. I've been using the term scarce. There's a scarcity. There's a true X scarcity out there. But they could find guys. Slayton's not a true X, though, either. He's just fast. He's very...
but Chark's not good.
Oh, God.
Do you think he's good?
Yes. I think he's very good.
He had that 2019 season, which was fine.
Scott, Chark is one of my all-time great wins in our relationship. I was doing a dynasty draft, you were doing a dynasty draft, and you asked me about Chark, who had a terrible rookie year. And you asked me, you were like, pick between these 4 players, and I don't remember who the other 3 were, but I know the guy I told you to pick was DJ Chark. Do you remember this or no?
I think it might have been the MFL 10 of Death, which is like the premier best ball league that like all the experts. And so I was in the last round and I was so stuck on this pick. It was either DJ Chark, some other player, or drafting a third defense. And drafting a third defense was optimal. And I talked to you about it. I talked to like 5 other people. I think you were the only one who said Chark. And I was like, all right, awesome. That's where I was leaning. And I took him and I won the league solely because of that pick.
Dang. Yeah, you the only comeback you brought to me was like, well, he was so bad his rookie year. You don't usually see bounce backs.
Yeah.
Like, receiver just is that bad. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm betting on the tape. And then,
well, you know who's another wide receiver who is another deep speed freak who had a really bad rookie season on paper, played for the Lions.
Yeah.
Jameson Williams. Yeah. Where are you at on him?
I mean, I don't count his rookie season against him.
Right.
He came back kind of probably early from an ACL. I had low expectations for him, so I almost wish they would have just redshirted him altogether. But I'm very high on him. I'm super excited. So my only concern right now is I've heard rumblings out of Allen Park that they have not been overly satisfied with his
work ethic.
At this point, specifically getting through that ACL injury and his ability to rehab that. When we were down in Mobile, Scott, I had a couple Lions people tell me that actually, and then I've some of the national media folk have picked up on it of late as well. So, what are you smiling about?
Derek Brown said, "No, it couldn't be a dynasty startup. Scott has no picks in those until round 20," which is just like so true. Well, I love how Costco and Derek can like join us right now if they want. They just have no interest. They just want to roast us from chat.
Yes.
They're doing a killer job.
Yeah. No, thanks for sticking with us and giving us fodder to talk about, guys.
Because there's not much in the way of exciting breaking news.
Yeah, a lot.
I mean, we could talk Aaron Rodgers theoreticals all day. I tweeted out that all right. So Garrett Wilson last year averaged 8.6 fantasy points per game with Joe Flacco, with Zach Wilson. 17.3 fantasy points per game with Joe Flacco. 17.3 fantasy points per game with Mike White. So with Aaron Rodgers, I feel like guaranteed floor of 17.3 fantasy points per game. Potentially, Devontae Adams type numbers. You kind of see the same thing with Elijah, but to a lesser extent, especially last year with, those games where he was only playing like 40% of the snaps. But 8.1 fantasy points per game with Zach Wilson, 11.4 with Flacco, 12.5 with Mike White. So Garrett Wilson right now is the wide receiver 12 in underdog ADP. And I think baked into that is like a 60% chance Aaron Rodgers signs with the Jets. Where do you put him if guaranteed Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets? Let me give you some names.
Yeah. Who's some guys above that?
Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 10. T. Higgins, wide receiver 12. Amon-Ra, wide receiver 9. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 8. I think I'd take Wilson over CeeDee Lamb.
I think I would too. The only one there that gave me serious pause, I think, was Amon-Ra.
Yeah, same. But then you have to think. I mean, we were just talking Jameson Williams.
I don't think that you're like you're gonna lose Shark. So like it's not like Shark got a decent amount of targets.
He lost Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. We don't really know what the running backs. I mean, it kind of seems like they're not super happy with DeAndre Swift anymore. I mean, Jamal Williams was getting most of the touches. So, and I mean, Williams is a free agent, so they're going to need running back if he leaves. So I'm not too worried about St. Brown, but definitely, I think I'd take Wilson over all those guys.
Derek Brown said, "Can we talk about the biggest breaking news? Scott is awake when the sun comes up." John Costco said, "Remember that time I had 7 first-round picks and I traded them for Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and made the championship game?" Scott said not to. The chat is absolutely roasting me. Getting murdered here.
Scott, I have pause with Waddle there. I think because I just got a bet on the. Actually, I don't know. I think Waddle's a better
The
player.
quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I backtracked pretty quickly there.
But does it matter? Like that's the thing is like, I think Mike White. They just signed Mike White. We saw what Mike White did with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. I think those are Waddle and Tyreek are just two quarterback-proof receivers, especially within this offense.
Yeah, I think I got a bet on the traits. I'm going Waddle, but I think you make a fair point though. Other than that,
I mean, I would go Wilson with Rodgers, but I just want to say I do love Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, we do have a legit question in the chat here.
Yeah,
Josh Peschke, is that right? Josh Peschke. Is there any hope for Jalen Tolbert? He's in the same realm as JMO and Chark, but I don't think he was hurt his rookie year. Ooh, look at putting the question on there.
I don't know. Vibes were really bad coming out of camp. Basically, everyone's saying he was not ready, and then he just never saw the field. When the Cowboys were trotting out, wide receivers like
Noah Brown.
Noah Brown is one of the best.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton is the big one.
Hey, Semi Fehoko played over him too. He was a Spork superstar.
He's a small school guy, so maybe the transition was harder for him.
The issue though is he was old.
Yeah. The track record for rookie receivers that are not hurt but do nothing in their first year and turning into something is usually not great, unfortunately.
Especially for old guys. Like you really want old guys to.
Kevontae Turpin is who I was thinking of. He got playing time over Tolbert.
Yeah, Turpin did start.
There you go. Thank you.
But for me with Tolbert, and this was my big concern even in my write-up, he did score as a late day or day 2 prospect for me. But my big concern with him is his style of play is bully ball. Like he's a contested catch monster. He's only 195 pounds and he played at South Alabama. So like I didn't know if that bully ball would work at the NFL level because corners are bigger, stronger, faster. I just wasn't sure. The lack of detail in his route running, I think, really showed up in Cowboys camp last year, and I think that's kind of why he got sandbagged pretty hard. If he gets better with that stuff, I mean, maybe he gets onto the field. I wouldn't count on it though. It might just be a wasted pick at this point.
I can't get over what the Cowboys traded Amari Cooper for. That was just like the worst trade. And then you just saw like 5 wide receivers going for nearly multiple first-round picks. And I mean, I think like Jalen Reagor, guys who are just dust getting
Reagor went for like a 7th round pick with like incentives that it could get higher, something like that.
I think I had a tweet on it. Let me pull it up.
Ooh, Bears signed guard Nate Davis to a 3-year deal. Is that the second big signing for the Bears today?
The first.
No, they signed a linebacker earlier.
Oh, TJ Edwards. Yeah.
Amari Cooper went for a round 5 pick. Brian Edwards went for a round 5 pick. Laviska Shenault went for a 6 and a 7. Jalen Reagor went for a 7, but could be a 4 and a 7. Hollywood Brown, round 1 pick. And then Hill, Adams, A.J. Brown, all round 1 plus. Kadarius Toney, a round 3 and a round 6.
What about Robert Woods?
And the Cowboys desperately needed him. Oh, I don't remember about Woods.
Woods is like a 5th, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Cooper totally changes that entire offense if he's still on it.
They needed him so bad last year.
And now they're being, I mean, I've seen receivers mock to them. I've seen, I think I even saw like, could they trade for DeAndre Hopkins? I mean,
how? With what money are they paying DeAndre Hopkins?
I don't know, but they're bringing both Pollard and probably Zeke back, so they're going to figure out a way.
Oh, that's not a reason that they can trade for Hopkins. That's a reason they can't trade for Hopkins.
I'm just saying you also said that there was no way that Pollard or Zeke came back, and it looks like they're both going to be back. Well, we don't know about Zeke yet, but at the very least, they're going to try to restructure his deal.
Derek Brown says, Justin Fields, does he finish outside the top 3 fantasy QBs this year? I'll defer to you two on this because I don't understand fantasy football.
Who is this? What?
Justin Fields.
Does he finish outside?
QB Exodia from this past year.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, where did he finish this year? Let's start there, and then I can.
Well, he finished 5th, but you have to remember the first 5 weeks, like he was just awful, and they weren't running him. And then we had that mini bye, and they're like, "All right, Justin, you need to run way more." And then he was basically the overall QB1.
To be fair, he was awful even when he was running, but that's a different story.
Right, but for fantasy, it doesn't matter. He had the worst offensive line in football last year, the worst receiving core in football last year, and he wasn't good. None of that matters if you're running enough, and he was running enough.
Bears are signing Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah, they've made their 3rd signing of the day.
Double linebacker splash. So they couldn't re-sign Roquan Smith.
They better be able to get out of these linebacker deals early. Like this better be like we have to spend a certain amount type thing. Because that is actually like they do have to spend a certain amount of money because they have so much cap space.
Can't wait to see the Edmonds deal. All right, so back to Fields.
Yeah, and now you give him DJ Moore. Now you give the team enough draft capital to address the offensive line. On paper, he should absolutely be a top 3 fantasy quarterback. But, not on paper. It's like, okay, well, there's Jalen Hurts, who was Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. All these guys put together like historically great quarterback seasons. And I'll just say, like, I feel like Fields has more upside, but I just don't trust him as much as Hurts, Fields, Allen. So, I mean, Hurts, Allen, Mahomes. So I'd say, I don't know. I don't know. I want to bet on him doing that, but I don't want to draft him that high. If that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Because there's more sure things. There's a chance he finishes top 3, though.
What are the warts on him? It's just that, well, the bottom line is he's like not good, and maybe teams just QB spy him all day, every day.
The warts on Fields?
Yeah.
He's just a mess between the ears.
He still struggled with like vision and checkdowns or progressions.
He can't get through his progressions at all. That's what, like, there were literally games where they had like 10 dropbacks, 13 dropbacks. Like,
I mean, that DJ Moore trade, like, it was an amazing trade for the Bears. Like, that is awesome. And like, that sucks for the Texans for winning that week 18 game.
Oh.
Just like a brilliant move. But DJ Moore is so cursed. He's never had a good quarterback in his entire career. And now I think Fields is okay, but the team attempted only 22.2 passes per game last year. That was the second fewest in 37 years. That's insane. It was actually the Falcons attempted fewer pass attempts per game. So Brett, how good is DJ Moore? Because I've kind of like always faded him, and it just like always worked out well. But there are like people in the dynasty community who are like, this is an easy top 7 wide receiver in the NFL. Like he's a freak. He's elite.
He's not that good, but he's good. I mean,
Real quick, we got the Tremaine Edmonds numbers. 4 years, $72 million, $50 million guaranteed. Largest 4-year contract for an inside linebacker in the NFL.
Was that $18 million a year?
Yeah, roughly.
Did you say 50 guaranteed?
50 guaranteed, so they can't get out of it. I loved everything the Bears were doing up until right now because they're investing in position. They're like, why?
What in the world?
Are linebackers crucial to an Eberflus scheme?
Linebackers aren't crucial to any scheme.
Well, the Giants like punted linebackers throughout the entire Jerry Reese Gettleman era.
Was that a counterpoint or an agreement?
I mean, I've always viewed that as like maybe it's just like a scheme thing, or it's like it depends.
Yeah,
on
it could be a little bit.
Elite linebacker that can cover, which there's very few of them in the NFL. Bobby Wagner, Levante David, Fred Warner, probably ends there. Matt Milano. Then yeah, they're valuable and they fit in any scheme. But other than that, you just need.
Does come from he had what, Darius Leonard and What was the other linebacker's name?
Okereke, right?
Is that who it was?
Yeah, in Indy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So maybe I mean, clearly he's saying this is my Darius Leonard replacement. I just can't imagine tying up that much money to two inside linebackers.
The Jets literally did this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Derek Brown says it sounds like it's front loaded.
Then that makes it okay, because as long as they can get out when they're really ready to compete and invest in premium positions, then that's fine. Because they do, like I said, they do have to spend a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
Although I would have thought they would have been in on like the Orlando Brown talks, but so far no word there. They were rumored to be in on the Mike McGlinchey talks, and he's signed in Denver. So I don't know. Maybe because
Justin Whitehead asking, seriously though, Claypool and Edmonds or Roquan?
well, it's not, and it's a second round pick, so it's not just it's Roquan and a second round pick versus Claypool and Edmonds. I'd probably rather have the second round pick and Roquan.
Wait, why is it? No, it's not Roquan and a second.
They gave up a second round pick to get Claypool, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Then that makes it easy. Roger says, "Do you think Atlanta still finds a way to get Lamar Jackson despite source reports?" Yeah, I think everyone's playing this very business-like at the moment. I think the Ravens have set themselves up to come out as winners, probably no matter what happens. Winners from a business standpoint. I've said this point a few times. I don't think the way they've handled Lamar has been very good, but from a business standpoint, I think they've played this perfectly. But sometimes winning in business means you're losing in relationships, and I don't think that's great for business in the long run. So, but yeah, I think Atlanta. I think they're posturing. They don't. They actually Arthur Blank is probably one of the few owners that can afford to do this deal. So I don't know. I do think there's a chance it gets done. Lamar has to come off this idea that he's going to get a fully guaranteed contract. That was my opinion.
Yeah, there's no reason for them to come out and say they're interested right away, because one, they can't even talk to him yet, and two, they just it only if they can get Lamar to come down to a more reasonable number, then why wouldn't they?
Roquan signed 560 without knowing the structure of that contract off the top of my head. That's wild. That's a wild contract.
That is big.
Assuming that's structured similarly to the way the Edmonds deal is structured, I'd probably still rather have Roquan in the 2. But
I'm reminded that the Bears traded basically a first-round pick for Chase Claypool. He's going to be the equivalent to the 32nd player selected in the draft.
that's true. That is true.
Which, I mean, Brett, he's not very good, right? Chase Claypool.
No.
Okay, good.
He's better than what they have in the right trio of players. He could be a functional receiver. He offers a unique skill set, I guess, that they didn't have. So, but no, they in no world was he worth that pick. That's actually great value for the Steelers. My God.
I know.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to re-sign him anyways, probably. So they have the 33rd pick this year, which is really the 32nd pick. Wow.
So of the teams that we think are going to draft a QB this year, the Colts, the Texans, the Panthers. The Texans are the only ones that have signed a somewhat of a bridge QB this year in Case Keenum. Do you think, does any of the QBs in this class definitely need a bridge QB to give him time? Or do you think
All four of them probably do.
Really?
I mean, yeah, that's true most years, though. Yeah, they probably all need bridges, but are they all going to get bridges? No. Most of them, I mean, there might not be any that get bridges, right? Is Case Keenum actually a bridge, or is he just a backup?
That's why it was. Yeah, I don't even know. He's got incentives in his deal to get him to more money, so maybe I'm guessing they proposed it to him that way, that he'd get a chance at starting.
Yeah. Isn't he also near midget status? Just thinking about Bryce.
He is. Yes, he is shorter. He is.
Come on, Dustin. Jalen Carter on the Lions is going to be so nice. Dustin, you've apparently been a Lions fan long enough to know that they're not going to do that, even if he's available. They value character way too much. And whether Carter gets exonerated or not for whatever happened, the fact is he still left a teammate and a staffer at Georgia dead on the side of the road. I mean, it's a big yikes for me, and I doubt that Sheila Hamp disagrees. So I don't see that happening. Derek Brown says A-Rich is probably the only one that gets a bridge, but we'll see. The problem with that, Derek, is A-Rich probably has the highest floor of all of them. So it's tough. It's tough to give a guy a bridge when he probably elevates what you're doing on offense already, even without the accuracy you want to see, just like Fields does with the Bears. So Bryce Young's probably the guy who truly doesn't need a bridge, but he's also the riskiest because of the injury concerns. With his size, they don't really have a good offensive line there in Houston. We're assuming that's just where Bryce is going. Maybe he ends up somewhere else, but yeah.
Well, let's do a mock draft right now.
You want to do a mock draft?
Let's do a mock draft right now. Who's going to Carolina 101?
Is it who I think or who I would take? I don't ever do mocks of what I think will happen because they're just hard.
Let's do both. First, what you think. Second, what you would do.
If I had to bet money, I would bet that they're taking CJ Stroud. If I was making the pick, I would take Anthony Richardson.
So that would make perfect sense for why you're getting these insane reports that Carolina is now trying to trade down from this pick, because CJ Stroud is off of Houston's board, and CJ Stroud does not want to go to Houston. He made that perfectly clear by hiring David Mulugeta as his agent. That's Deshaun Watson's agent. And so per sources, Houston, he's off their board until he switches agents, and he has no desire to switch agents because he does not want to go to Houston. And so Houston would love that. Bryce Young is probably their top player, and so it goes Stroud, Bryce Young. But if it were to go Young, then Houston's absolutely screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to do everything they can to make Houston think it's Young then.
Yeah, which we talked about on the pod earlier, Chris. They're posturing to try to get Houston to give them a second-round pick, basically. That's the precedence. Bears moved from 3 to 2 a couple years ago to get Trubisky. Cost them a second. I think you're not going to take a quarterback out of spite, though. They wouldn't actually draft Bryce Young just to spite the Texans. They're just going to pretend like they are.
So why do you think it is Stroud and not Young?
I think Stroud, well, he is the favorite in the betting markets. That's why I said if I was betting money, I think that's the safest pick. But I think
has it switched? Is it now Stroud the favorite?
Yeah, he's been the favorite since the trade.
Yeah, like heavily.
Oh wow!
In fact, it got even more lopsided this morning with all the Dove Kleiman tweets. But Stroud, if you look at what Frank Reich did in Indy the last couple of years, and we don't know for sure how many of those decisions were Reich's. We know for sure Wentz that was a right guy. But the other two, whether it was Phillip Rivers or Matt Ryan, they're all this classic pocket passer throwback type, and that's CJ Stroud to a T. Now, Stroud has a lot of untapped mobility. We didn't really see him use that, but from his starting point of where he is as a player right now, the way he likes to play the quarterback position, he's a pocket passer. So I think Reich clearly has a value for those guys. But it is my opinion, though, and I said this to Chris on the pod earlier, you don't trade from 9 to 1 for safe. Like, I think Stroud's the safest guy from a skill set standpoint. you don't trade from 9 to 1 for safe. You trade from 9 to 1 for upside. So Stroud fits Reich's size want. Yeah, well, Richardson's bigger, so.
Okay, so we'll say Stroud 1, and who do you think it should be?
Should be Richardson.
What?
What?
What? Anthony Richardson? He's has all these holes. You know, he's barely thrown 200 passes in his college career.
500 dropbacks, roughly. Just on
whatever it is. I'm just trying to better entertainment if I come at you like this.
Yeah. So I mean,
what's your argument?
My argument is Richardson's a more refined quarterback right now than guys like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts.
He's more refined than Bryce Young, Heisman winner, than CJ Stroud, most accurate quarterback in the class.
Correct. I'm not debating his accuracy issues, but there's so many details that go into playing the quarterback position, like pocket awareness, the ability to manipulate your blockers, slide in the pocket, step up in the pocket, and make the most out of that. Richardson's above everyone else in that regard. When it comes to getting through your progressions and getting a pre-snap snapshot and a post-snap snapshot, Richardson is also the best at that. Richardson is capable of coming off of his first read and quickly making a decision in the second part of his progression to deliver the football. He does that better than anyone else in this class. These are details to playing the quarterback position that are very underrated by the average person, especially I would say average fantasy guy, that absolutely matter. So when you throw terms out like, oh, this guy's raw, well, he better check all of these boxes. Or he better not check these boxes, I should say, if you're calling him raw. And Richardson checks all these boxes. The one thing he's got to get better at is consistently throwing the ball accurately. And a lot of it is his lower half mechanics. Especially when he breaks the pocket and tries to play out of structure, he does a poor job of getting his lower half underneath him and getting a proper weight transfer from foot to foot when he's delivering that ball. That's when he gets wonky. He also tends to throw everything like a fastball because he's got a rocket ship arm. If he kind of gets a little bit better there, I don't mind the fastball stuff because I think NFL receivers are just better than college receivers. But I do think that he needs to get a little bit better on the accuracy front to really maximize what he's capable of. But all the little details he's phenomenal at. Here's a good one: throwing with timing and anticipation. Like he has legitimate high level reps throwing with timing and anticipation. Jake Tribby, that's the best.
I saw that. So here's what I'll say is, I think you can make a lot of excuses, especially because he's only 20 years old. He's a year younger than what Wikipedia has. And so he hasn't had a lot of these reps. And so a lot of these things just come with time.
Yeah.
But you did say his biggest knock would be accuracy and consistent accuracy and, below 55% career completion percentage. That always makes me nervous because, how many quarterbacks had accuracy concerns and then fixed it in the NFL? It's Josh Allen and basically no one else.
Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, to name two very recent examples. Justin Fields is had a pretty good step forward in year 2. Derek Brown says he drifts too much and marrying upper and half and lower half. I don't think he drifts at all, to be frank with you, Derek. I think you want to see a guy who drifts, go watch CJ Stroud's film, especially if he sees a box count of 6 or more. He panics like he just saw the ghost of Joe Lombardi. But yeah, I see what you're saying, of course, but I'm a bet on the traits guy. I think his floor is so high because he does all the little things well. So all those little details I just mentioned, Scott, Josh Allen wasn't doing those things. Jalen Hurts wasn't doing those things. Jalen Hurts has really had to break a lot of bad habits. The same habits we talked about with Kyler Murray a half hour ago, that really slow trigger, that was 100% Jalen Hurts as well. It's something that the Alabama and Oklahoma offenses both get out of their quarterbacks for whatever reason. I think it's because the skill gap between the guys they're playing with versus their competition is that extreme. All the Alabama QBs the last 5 years they've been playing with first and second round receivers all over the board, first round offensive linemen. Oklahoma, while it's a step down from Alabama, the Big 12 sucks. So I think Oklahoma's talent for the many years there was far superior to what the Big 12 was offering. So I think that slow trigger thing, like that's something Richardson does not have.
Yeah, I haven't really watched much tape on him beyond the obvious like highlight reels. We'll have to watch that together. So I don't really know. I just know the narratives.
Yeah,
the narrative is like, well, the upside is immense, just like it was with Patrick Mahomes, just like it was with Josh Allen. And so you have to gravitate towards that upside because it's such a difference maker. You get asymmetric returns. Like a top 3 quarterback is worth, basically having a top 1 wide receiver, a top 1 edge rusher, a top 1 cornerback, and a top 5 offensive coordinator combined. Like it's just so valuable. And so like I see the narrative of he's high risk, high reward. And it's like, okay, Mahomes and Josh Allen did hit their upper bound range of outcomes, but maybe they just got lucky. Maybe they just had the right landing spot. Zach Wilson was kind of profiled as a similar player, but I like the way you spun it where it's like, no, this is a really high floor prospect. And I see that too, where it's not just the rushing, the high floor that Fields showed from an NFL perspective with the rushing, but it's also just like, according to Spork score, my custom athleticism metric, like he is such a freak athlete. He would be the second most athletic tight end all time in between Vernon Davis and Kyle Pitts. He'd be a top 10 wide receiver in terms of athleticism. Like, so if he like really doesn't pan out at quarterback, like you can take a chance at him being, a different position. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Like underrated, super high floor in the same vein as a Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields.
Well, Scott too. So, let's remember we're not comparing him to those guys even. We're comparing him to this draft class, right? So when you're asking me, is he the right pick over C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or Levis? I don't like the term raw being used with Richardson compared to those guys because they have elements of their game that are also raw. I did John Hanson's Sirius XM show last week and had quite the epic rant about this. But the bottom line is like C.J. Stroud completely folds like a cheap suit under pressure. That's a raw element of his game. Scott's also not even listening to me right now. It's such a shame. Look at him. Bryce Young, insanely slow trigger. He likes to create with his feet too much. It's going to get him in trouble in the NFL. Will Levis, I mean, you play like his inability to attack the short parts of the field make him such a liability. And the second he plays in the NFL, he's going to see too high every freaking snap to mitigate that arm strength. That also makes him a raw prospect. So I don't like the term raw being used Richardson because I think the other 3 guys have equally raw parts of their game. And I see Richardson as a guy who does all the small things very, very well. So.
Richardson also has a better excuse for it, just like the limited reps and then the age.
Scott, to add to that really quick, there's an argument to be made. Experience is one of the most important traits in the NFL. Even look at a guy like Brock Purdy, able to step in as a 7th round rookie and perform. Yeah, Shanahan gets a lot of credit for that, but Brock Purdy started like 60 games in college. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, he's not the only one you've seen come in and do. Your boy in Miami, Skylar Thompson. Yeah, he's a dude who started a bunch of games, and he looked like he belonged on a football field. Mm-hmm. I got to get to one of the chat's questions, though, real quick. It's driving me insane. Jake Tribby asks, who wins in a fight to the death, Scott Fair or Bryce Young?
Jake's next comment is pretty great, too.
Scott listen, world
he answers it for me.
Oh, does he?
Can you get the follow-up, Sean? Comes with being the GOAT. Boom.
Yeah, there you go.
Who would? All right, answer that question. Who would win in a fight to the death, Scott Barrett or Bryce Young?
Well, are we talking Bryce Young on milk or?
I will say like Bryce Young's like arm is like perfectly in line with my crotch, so that's like a big advantage to him.
Well, you're not that tall. Get over that.
No, I'm just making fun of how short he is.
5'11", 6 foot.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than being 5'11". I'm like 5'11" flat too. You can't even round up. Which means I'm actually 5'10" and a half, probably. All right. Pick 102, Houston. What do you think they should do? And what do you think they do?
What do I think they should do? They should take a quarterback. I don't
Right.
care which one at this point. But if Richardson's off the board, they should just go with whoever they have highest on their board. Probably Stroud. I'd go Stroud.
Well, again,
not
Stroud
Young?
is off their board because of David
Sure.
Mulugheta.
So then go Bryce Young. Go Bryce Young.
Arizona should trade down.
Yeah,
right?
they should trade back to number 4. Kidding.
No, I think that makes sense. They gotta strike the fear of God into the Colts that somebody else is gonna leapfrog them for whatever QB they want.
I feel like the Raiders signing Jimmy G kind of like.
Yeah, but like you said, then the Seahawks and the Lions are not technically out of it.
In the Falcons.
And the
Seahawks,
Falcons.
Lions, Falcons, even Raiders. I mean, they did sign Jimmy, but it's not 100% off the table.
Right.
No, I would just go Bryce Young because they hate CJ Stroud, or CJ Stroud hates them.
Right. Arizona.
But we already aren't. Sorry, I
Yeah.
repeated myself there. It's fine.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Arizona.
So let's assume they don't trade down. This is a terrible spot to be in for them. But
I don't think there's any world where they don't trade down. I really don't, because I don't think there's any world where Seattle is allowed to pick the 4th quarterback. Oh, actually, I don't know. I was going to say the 3rd quarterback. Yeah, Will Levis. Where do you think Will Levis goes, Brad? Where do you think he should go?
in my mock, I mocked him to
The Raiders, right?
the Raiders at number
7. Oh no, that's right. You had him trade up. Yeah.
No, was it? No, I had him trade up to 3, but I didn't give him Levis. I gave him Stroud, I think.
You gave the Colts Levis then? That doesn't sound right.
Oh my God, I can't remember. Somebody pull up my mock, please.
I have to run in like 15 minutes here, guys. Just maybe sooner. Just a heads up.
That's okay, Scott. Is anyone else hopping on? Do you know, like Hanson or Joe, or just Chris and I going to finish it out?
I think it's just you two, but I'll send a message.
It's probably fine because I can't hang on that much longer, anyways.
Yeah.
So unless Chris wants to keep going, then. Did anyone get my mock up yet?
Yeah.
I got it too.
You have the Colts go to 1, but obviously that's not happening anymore.
Colts go to 1 for Richardson.
Yeah.
Texans take Young. Panthers come up to 3 for Stroud. So, and then Vegas taking Will Levis at 4.
So it's just a little. So yeah, you have the Colts trade to 3. Now you have the whoever at 4.
All right, so let's say
There's no world in which Arizona picks at 3. There's no way.
I don't know if that's true. Who's coming up? Who are you convinced is coming up to 3?
The Colts, the Seahawks.
Why would the Colts? Who's
the-
threatening the Colts enough to jump one spot?
The Seahawks.
It depends. It depends what they like. Yeah, if they
I'm not sold, man. I mean, their intel department has to be awesome. Like they need legitimate. They need to hire some CIA folk and go on a reconnaissance mission there because I don't know. I'm not sold that the Seahawks are going to take a quarterback. I think it's a minor threat, but you need more than a minor threat, I think, to make a move like that.
But you could make it's also the same on the flip side. They could say that because they don't know, they have to do it as well.
Okay, let's say
How awesome is that for the Colts if they get QB3? That's like their perfect world. We talked about the premium Houston would pay a round 2 pick to move up 1 spot. I think if you're the Colts, you do that.
All right, so Colts move to 3 then with Cardinals, and they take
Or the Seahawks. That's the Geno deal is like a very favorable, basically 1-year deal.
same with the Raiders and Garoppolo though. So
We actually just got the details on Jimmy G's deal. So he's the next 2 years, he's 11 million signing bonus for 23 and 24 with a same number being the salary that each of those 2 years, and then 2025 it's $22 million salary, and that's it.
So it's a 2-year deal.
Yeah, pretty much.
2-year deal for Jimmy. So they're not out of the realm of quarterback either. All right. So for argument's sake, Colts trade to 3. They take whoever's left between Richardson and Stroud. Boom. Stroud it is. Cool. Moving on. Pick 4. Cardinals.
Will Anderson.
Yeah, Will Anderson. Done. Moving on. Pick 5. Seahawks. Do they like Will Levis or do they pass?
I could see Levis falling quite a ways.
Oh my God, I love Jake's question he just asked.
Yeah.
Who's the worst player consistently mocked in round 1?
Is it Levis?
I was just gonna say that. Is it Will Levis? Actually, no, it's not Will Levis. But oh, there's some pretty wonky things. I've seen up to 10 different cornerbacks getting mocked in round 1, which is crazy. So some of those guys aren't even going to be close to first-round players for me. Worst first. Oh, I know. Easy answer here. Trenton Simpson, Clemson linebacker. Although I don't think he's being mocked in round 1.
I was going to say I don't think he's being mocked in round 1.
Chris, do you know what website has do they curate all the mock draft data?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how Scott is able to keep up with company Discord while we're on a live stream, but apparently he is. That explains why he's been ignoring me so much, though. So,
I've also yeah, exactly. That's what Casca was saying. Made you repeat something 2 or 3 times. But all right, so who is the top first non-quarterback off the board? Will Anderson?
on my board or the NFL's board?
Let's do both.
Let's just do Will Anderson. I don't want to make it complicated.
Who's the first wide receiver?
Quentin Johnston or Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Okay, where do they go? Second half? Middle?
I think there's a chance one goes at 9 now.
Ooh.
Bear sitting there. But I think realistically, first one off the board is probably pick 12.
Bears got DJ Moore, Claypool, Mooney. I think they're set.
They might view it that way.
That. I don't buy it. Especially with like someone like Fields, who you said can't work through progressions, and so much of his value comes on the ground. Seems like a waste.
So you need to give him good options with his first read, though.
And you where does Bijan go?
He's the hardest player in the entire thing to slot, because the reality for me is like he is a top 15 grade for me overall, but when you go through the teams picking in that range, like no one has an excuse to take him because of other things they have going on. So it's going to take a team just deciding that the talent supersedes the need, the talent supersedes the value. I have no idea what teams are going to be willing to say that. If I had to guess, Scott, I would say the Detroit Lions taking that pick 18.
So here's where I think it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Pick 27, Dallas. Pick 28, Buffalo. Pick 29, Cincy. Pick 30, Sean Payton and the Saints. Pick 31, Eagles. Pick 32, Chiefs. I mean, that's just like every single one of those is very realistic and would be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Not the Cowboys. But
I've mocked him to the Bengals.
Never know with Jerry.
I've mocked him to the Bengals twice. In both my mocks, he went to the Bengals.
Bills,
last that
Bengals,
long.
Saints, Eagles, Chiefs.
Bills would probably be a waste.
I mean, it's just these are the teams that could justify it because the rest of their roster is so good.
The Bills certainly cannot.
Bills can definitely not. Yeah.
And it's just Sean Payton's like, I mean, he spent a top 3 pick on Reggie Bush back in the day. Mark Ingram spent a first round pick on. He loves running backs and he smashed for fantasy.
Wait, Sean Payton has what pick does Sean Payton have?
Oh, that's so stupid.
Yeah, you're
the Saints. What am I doing? Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Sean Payton's with the Broncos these days. Get with the time, Scott.
And the Broncos traded that pick for him too, so there's no chance. Yeah.
All right. So Bills, Bengals, Eagles, Chiefs.
I think realistically, like, yeah, exactly, Derek. I've in both the 2 mock drafts I've done, I had Bijan Robinson going to Cincinnati Bengals and then getting rid of Mixon because that would save them some money, get them younger, allow them to pay T. Higgins, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Jesse Bates is signing with the Falcons. That should be a big money deal for safety.
Okay. Arthur Smith might hate Kyle Pitts, but he's trying to keep his job, it looks like.
I don't know how much influence he has on that side.
How much does that hurt the Bengals?
They're gonna have to. They have like no secondary left right now. That's now their Von Bell was their other safety who signed with the Panthers.
Are they going to sign Jamel Dean?
They have money. I don't know what they're doing. They can do. Oh, here's the 4-year.
Well,
$16 million per year for a safety, 4th highest paid in NFL history. Wow.
Who was one? Landon Collins?
No, not anymore. Marcus Williams last year, probably, right?
No, well, this was in history. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Marcus Williams last year was #1 in history.
Was he really?
I mean, the history is going to be recent. It's not like guys were making 10 years ago.
Yeah. That's a big deal. Derwin James? No. Is Derwin James on his new deal? No. Oh, Minka.
Oh, yeah, that's gross.
Yeah, Marcus Williams. Justin Simmons has a big deal with the Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal.
And Derwin James is the other. Yeah, he's up there.
Derwin. All those guys have one thing in common. They do multiple things.
Yeah, I don't know what the Bengals are doing if they want to compete to beat the Chiefs and the Bills. They're sitting on a lot of money.
Well, this has been an issue for them, right? Their owner is like notoriously one of the most stingy, and
yeah.
Well, maybe they're just poor. I don't know. Don't want to spend the money.
Ooh. The Lions re-signed Alex Anzalone.
Okay. Do we have figures on that?
3-year, $18.75 million.
So he was waiting on Edwards' deal. Signed basically the same deal. I
thought they were done with him.
Oh no, he really came alive last year. Played a lot better than he had the year before. I think Anzalone, he's such a locker room guy for them. I mean, he's not a needle mover by any means, but he played surprisingly well for them. So Dustin Whitehead does not like it. It looks like. Sorry, Dustin. I think it's a perfectly fine re-sign though. It's not big money.
No. Yeah, anytime you don't need awesome talent at linebacker.
Correct.
All right, I gotta run, guys. This was a blast.
Okay.
Looks like it's just gonna be you two.
It's gonna be us. That's fine. It's not gonna really change much.
All right. See you guys
later.
He says, "All right." You didn't get the light-handed dig there. It's not really gonna change much. Him leaving.
No, I didn't get it.
Anyways, so I have to roll here in a minute too, but
yeah, this day last year was way more active than we got this year. It looked pretty good when we from before we were on. There was a number of signings real quick.
There's been activity, just none on the offensive side of the ball, really, other than offensive.
I know.
So
yeah.
Real quick on Dustin here. He's upset about Anzalone. I think people are underrating how good Anzalone played last year. Like he really was, I would say, good for them. He's clearly a guy they like and fits their scheme and blah, 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 blah. I never bought into linebacker being a massive need for the Lions this offseason. I know every Lions fan wants them to go sign Tremaine Edmonds or one of these big dudes. I just never really saw it happening. Malcolm Rodriguez played really well for a 6th-round pick. Barnes is a developmental guy that they like. And then Anzalone is the captain of the ship. So it made sense to keep that core together. If they add a guy, I didn't think it would be a stud. didn't think he'd be a superstar. I think re-signing Anzalone is fine, to be honest. Guaranteed money will be sort of a big deal, but as long as he's, in maintaining the market rate there that, like TJ Edwards got, I think it's fine. So
Yeah, if you're paying him $6 million a year for the next 2 years that you're mostly locked into, that's not bad. Assuming you get out of it after that.
Yep.
So what do you think the Jesse Bates signing does for the Falcons? Bad secondary for pretty much the past few years. AJ Terrell has looked good at times, but
yeah. Let me pull up their depth chart real quick.
So they've got other defensive backs currently on their roster.
Hayward, AJ Terrell is a pretty good 1-2.
Rashad Fenton. Yeah, Cornell Armstrong played a bit for him last year, I think, too.
Did he really? Fenton's a free agent. Isaiah Oliver's a free agent. Cornell Armstrong did play for them. He's also a free agent. I think they probably like their outside corners, and Terrell and Hayward. It's going to be about finding a nickel now. And they have Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant still under contract, so it's possible they see some more 3 safety looks coming that way.
Yeah.
And,
D. Alford played most of their nickel snaps last year, if I remember.
Alfred and Isaiah Oliver, yep.
Yeah, and Oliver. Oliver missed some time last year.
Yep. What they really need is pass rush. They have no pass rush. Oh, well, they just signed Anya Meta. That helps.
Yes, they did.
They have Grady Jarrett. So that's a good pass rushing interior on passing downs, but they need an edge defender that can really – I didn't understand why they re-signed Lorenzo Carter. It didn't seem like a priority to me. But they need a big-time investment. They did draft, what, was it Arnold Ebiketie in the 2nd round last year from Penn State? I mean, he's a big free athlete, so –
all right, as we wrap up here, is there any major guys that we're still waiting on? I was just pulling up.
I mean, there's Jamel Dean.
Yeah, the corner, and James Bradbury. The corner market still has a lot of big names left.
Wait, I thought Bradbury signed somewhere. No,
Bradbury did. Did we miss that?
Oh no, he did not. Okay, I misspoke.
Orlando Brown.
Let me see.
And then and I mean, we've already said all the skill players. None of them have done anything. Marcus Davenport is out there.
Top remaining guys: Jamel Dean, Levante David, Bobby Wagner, Jacoby Myers, James Bradbury,
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson,
Dalvin Tomlinson, Jordan Poyer, Dalton Schultz, Marcus Davenport, Draymond Jones, Zach Allen, David Long.
Clowney's a free agent this year. I forgot about him.
Clowney, Patrick Peterson, Charles Onwenu. So there's still a lot of things to be had here. Really, it's crazy. We've got no movement on the offensive side of the ball, though. So,
yes, it is.
But
they're probably, like you said, they're probably just waiting for one of them, somebody to go first, to kind of, because they all kind of are like the same guys, like different skill sets, but like same level of what they can bring to your team.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to be first, though.
The way the Falcons are spending money
says they're not getting Lamar Jackson.
Well, yeah, and also that maybe they're okay with Ritter.
Yeah.
But that would be a mistake in my opinion, but who knows? Maybe Ritter can take that developmental leap that we have seen other quarterbacks in the similar mold take.
I don't know. They're a trade-up candidate as well.
Yeah, they are. Looks like generally on Twitter, Lions fans are completely overvaluing the linebacker position. Everyone's pretty upset about this deal. I don't know.
It's fine. It's a fine deal.
It's a very hard to get linebacker to move the needle in the positive direction for you. So really all I'm looking for at that position is just guys who won't sink you.
Right.
By the way, it is funny how time changes things. Tremaine Edmonds, until this year, was terrible. Go watch the Chiefs-Bills playoff game from 2 years ago. The Chiefs literally targeted him on every freaking play. Like, he was such a liability in the pass game. That's what you can't have on defense, is a guy who's a liability like that, where he's just either overrunning his gap on every play, over scraping, or getting taken advantage of in the pass game. But
linebacker play is it's basically all the same unless you're the elite guys.
Yes,
like you're exactly what you said. You're just looking for them not to sink you.
Yep. And even the elite guys, they're overstated. There's not nearly as many as
like Roquan Smith doesn't really change your defensive outlook in a major way.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to think of anyone else, like Bobby Wagner, Levante David, Fred Warner. I mean, that's really it, honestly. And Fred has even been bad in his career before too. He had a resurgence last year. I think what it comes down to, here's the best way of describing it. What NFL linebackers are asked to do is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. It's one of the toughest jobs to play. So the gap in skill to be from a non-difference maker to a difference maker is so extreme. You're just not going to find that. It's going to be a very rare player. And it's almost not even worth taking swings on it because you just don't know. I'm trying to think of other guys that were drafted top 10 recently, and they all have been just kind of mediocre. The dude in Tampa, Devin White.
Yeah.
Not a very good player. Tremaine Edmonds until this year was not a very good player. Roquan Smith was terrible with the Bears for all intents and purposes. Then he goes to Baltimore and plays really, really well, but like Baltimore, protected him well in the run game, essentially. So
yeah. Luke Kuechly, I always remember, just totally could do things that I don't know if we'll ever see again.
Correct. That is correct. That is a difference maker for sure.
Patrick Peterson to the Steelers.
I see that. Yeah, it seems like a downturn from Cam Sutton to me.
Definitely is.
Peterson played okay last year at times. I think some of his statistics were better than his actual play on the field.
But yeah, anybody with speed, if he's lined up against a guy that can run, that's it.
Yeah, he's probably only going to get worse. I think he's definitely on the downturn. So don't love that. Some rumors being floated that Brandon Cooks might be traded. That's another interesting thing about this free agency cycle is a lot of heavy trade stuff. A lot of things are really dependent on trades happening.
The Jets literally can't do anything until
Rodgers, Lamar. You have Brandon Hopkins. The
Scott mentioned all the running backs. Yeah,
Eckler, Henry. I know there's more than that, but there's still a lot of moving parts potentially in the trade market, which could really change the way that free agency flows. All right, should we call it there?
It's probably fine.
I probably should not neglect my family. So
we'll be covering all the free agency news, regardless. Even that happens over the next few days. There will be some skill players signed at some point, and it will be covered. I'm sure in articles we'll have on all the podcasts on the Fantasy Points networks. All this stuff will be covered throughout free agency and up until everybody has a landing spot.
Yep, we do have one more really quick. Obo Okoronkwo, formerly of the Rams and the Texans, has signed with the Cleveland Browns. 3-year deal worth $19 million with a chance to make 22, and he gets $12.5 million guaranteed. This seems like a Jadeveon Clowney replacement. And he's probably a little bit better than Clowney at this point in his career. So he kind of had a breakout year with the Texans last year. I think that's a solid move to give them some pass rush opposite of Myles Garrett. I like it. All right, you can close this out, Chris. Sorry.
All right. Yep. Yeah. Just like I said, all the free agency news will be covered over at Fantasy Points. Make sure you subscribe, get all the access to all the great content that we have. And that will do it for us.